Hey, what's up? This is Jeremy from the Devil Wears Prada, and you're watching Sonic Perspectives.
Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks for having me. Down under. I love it.
Yeah. It's currently 6 o'clock here in the morning, so I've had half my espresso, so I'm thinking
Yeah, I'm
the
about to
brain's still
start my
kicking back.
second one soon. Yeah, I'm in North Carolina, so it's like 4 p.m. right now. We're just chilling.
Whereabouts in North Carolina are you? One of my best mates is from Raleigh.
Oh, okay. I'm like 2 hours away from there. I live in Charlotte, so it's like right on the border of South Carolina, pretty much. So
Nice. So it's nice and warm there, hey, at the moment.
very, very, very warm. Like humid, hot. It's nice.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm dreaming of times like that at the moment, of conditions like that. Yeah. Any weather where I have to wear a sweater or something, I'm not a fan.
I understand that fully.
But I mean, you won't be there for long, really. I mean, you guys are about to embark on a massive US tour during August and September for the Zombie EPs. How excited are you to play both EPs in full live?
Yeah. So I leave in 2 days. I'll be going to start rehearsals for that. So I'm very pumped. We did like a live stream, mm, maybe it was like 2 years ago now ish, in the middle of the pandemic with one of the zombie EPs and our space EP, and it was really awesome. And then we did another live stream for Z2, so it would be cool to do that with an actual audience and not like a virtual audience.
It must be it must be weird, like knowing that you are performing for people and they are watching and they are reacting in their own space, but you can't see that. You can't tell them to
Yeah,
get
it's
up
not
and
my
to throw
vibe.
down.
It was like the best option we had, and we worked so hard on it. But it's like I just want to be on stage. I don't want to do that.
Sure. Yeah, it'd be a whole different experience. And what's it like? I mean, when it comes to live streaming, and I guess during COVID, of course, a lot of bands and even companies had to change the way that they interact with their customers. I mean, did you find that like a daunting task to go, all right, we need to have like a Twitch account, we need to really engage with them that way, or was it kind of like a really exciting, idea for everyone to kind of, yeah, just have a new way of engaging with people?
That's a great question. I have a pretty entrepreneurial spirit anyway. Like I like, being innovative and trying to figure out new ways to do things, but that definitely threw everything through the loop. So it it was interesting. I learned a lot. I definitely learned a lot more flexibility. Like now I kind of use the euphemism. It's more like everything we do, we're just trying to ride on a surfboard and just stay up, like rather than have more finite plans that we kind of got used to before that. Now it's like someone's like, "Oh, did you hear what's happening at the show today?" I'm like, "I don't care. Whatever. It's it's fine. Everything's burning all the time anyway, so we'll
Yeah.
just figure it out." But it was cool. It was as long as people are still engaged, that's all I really care about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just as long as you're keeping in touch with those people. I mean, of course, like that's kind of like the core of most bands, isn't it? Like just to make sure that you are keeping in touch with the people who are enjoying your music. So, yeah, I guess as long as you are doing that in any way, shape, or form, then that's the most important thing.
Hmm.
Uh, going back to the Zombie EP, the thing that I loved most about the Z2, how do you guys
Yeah,
say it?
you
Do you
can
go
say
Z2?
Z2. Yeah, you
Is
can
it?
say
Yeah, okay.
Z2. I say
That was actually
Z2.
the first review that I ever wrote for Sonic Perspectives was the Z2
Oh, sweet.
EP. Yeah, it was actually really cool. I had a lot of fun with that because I was a massive fan of the first one as well. So I really dove into the story too. But yeah, anyway, so I loved it, how well it was written, especially on its own and as an addition to the OG zombie story. And it's one thing to carry that story across the EPs over a period of like what 10 years or
Yeah,
something.
10 years. Yeah.
But what do you think the experience will be for the people to experience that story in like one single live hit?
Yeah, that's actually a great way of thinking about it. I'm so caught up like in the kind of playing aspect of it and stuff. I guess I haven't really considered the narrative aspect, but I think it will be cool. So much of what we do isn't cohesive. It's just like here's a song, then here's a song, then here's a song. So it'll be kind of fun to do them just back to back and all at one story. I know we
Mm,
have a really extensive lighting rig that we're bringing to kind of just enhance all that stuff. So I think he's playing into that whole thing with that too. So
that's exciting. And I had a question about the what was it? Oh yeah, so that's interesting that you say that you are kind of you're used to doing just more independent songs, and Knocked Loose was the same, I believe. So they had their own songs, and then they released what's the latest EP they just released?
yeah, it's a great EP actually. I can't
What
remember the name of it either.
I've never had mind blank when it comes to the EP. It's because I didn't have all my coffee. It's not a different shade
Yeah.
of blue. It's the car crash one where they crash. I swear to God, like if people are commenting on this, they're gonna be like, "You idiot! You've taken this thing and forgot what it's called." I can't remember. I've blocked it
Yeah.
out of my mind. But anyways, yeah, Brian, when he wrote that, that was like his first time doing a proper concept album as well. So and it was beautifully written too. Here we go. A tear in the fabric of life. My God,
That's right. Yeah.
that's it. So sorry, Brian and co. Anyways, but let's get to your record. I mean, Color Decay. It's bleak, but it's so beautiful and it's atmospheric. It's massive. It's just like it's got this larger than life energy to it. The songs are ambient and there is despite it being Color Decay, there is tons of color throughout the album. It's really quite a spectacle. Was there like a musical theme that you kind of wanted to focus on this time around?
Yeah, that was such a great descriptor of it also. Yeah, so I think lyrically the idea was to kind of distance from the more narrative aspect of Z2. Obviously, that's much more of like here's a story and let's go through the arc of it, kind of in a novel sense. But this feels more like a personal journey. There's a lot of intimacy. So most of the lyrics are just from Mike and our keyboard player John, just kind of going through their own personal experiences and anxieties and relationships and things like that. Just being really candid, basically, and that really helped me performance wise just to tap in knowing that these were their stories and I have my own stories that are really in the same vein and like just trying to basically leave it in the booth and um, kind of show people intimacy that we could never do on a song about zombies. It's just you can only go so far in that realm. So that
Yeah.
was kind of part of it. And then just wanting to do like a totally different sonic texture. Obviously, the point of zombie songs is to be as aggressive as possible and just to be as it's made for the live environment. Every song should be able to be played live, but here on the EP, we wanted more of an arc, kind of similar to like an album like Dead Throne or something, where it starts very up and then comes pretty far down in the middle and then arcs its way back up.
Hmm.
So it makes sense, like if you listen to it front to back. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did you go about keeping things fresh in your material as you continue in the band, but then you still make sure that it's containing the identity of the Devil Wears Prada? Because I can imagine that would be difficult because you guys really do explore multiple sounds. Like Space is nothing similar to Zombie, So how do you kind of make sure that when you finish, you go, is this us? And like, how do you detect that, or how do you kind of stop yourselves from straying too far?
That's a great question. I don't think we always do. I think sometimes we do stray a little far and like candidly, yeah, I like everything that we've done, but there's definitely some things that were a little bit more experimental that felt like a gateway to get to this point. I think we had kind of started a bit of a adventure after Dead Throne. That was really the last time I remember feeling like I know exactly what we're doing. Like this is exactly what we want it to be. And then it's
Wow.
been almost a decade of just figuring it out. We had so many member changes after that. We just had so many personal journeys within all of our lives. We had kind of almost started to take it for granted that we were a band and had a career and stuff like that. So um, this album and Z2 were kind of the first feelings I had of unity of like this group makes sense together, and this body of work actually stands on its own.
That is a very surprising answer, and I appreciate how candid you are with it. But
Yeah, it's
I
true.
yeah, that's really cool. I mean, it doesn't sound like that from the outside. It sounds like you as a band are kind of willingly exploring. It's like you're going out as a group of astronauts being like, "No, no, no, we wanna go out to that planet and we wanna see what it's like." So
Sure.
that's a very surprising answer, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, you just never know. I mean, every time you go to do a project, and I guess it's probably best to consider it like a project, because some are EP, some are album. Though, well, every time it's different. There's always different people involved. Maybe you're working with another producer, or the people writing the music, even within the band, can be different, or people are having different personal experience. So you're basically just trying to capture that moment as best you can. And sometimes that moment might be more relatable or less. So this one just felt fully connected into like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It just hits right in the middle, and you're like, "Yep, okay, we're onto something."
Yeah, yeah. Finger on the
So,
pulse a little bit.
yeah, how did you approach writing this album compared to your last few? Of course, John he's your keyboardist, but then he also took the
hmm
role of producer for Z2 and for this album. So yeah, how was the writing process different than your previous works?
Yeah, that actually has a lot to do with just the realities of having to work in the pandemic, and get used to that style for Z2. We never did a full band session on Z2. We were basically just sending stuff back and forth between everybody, and then kind of like aggregated in the middle of the country to make the EP. But we just couldn't do our normal process. But that was actually really cool. Like we came up with a lot of different stuff that way. And so um, definitely wanted John to produce basically everything from here on out. He's just got such a good energy, and he really, especially with Mike and myself, he really understands like how to get the best performances out of us. We trust him in such a way that he can just be really honest and aggressive with us, and we won't take it personally. It's like, if he's like, that take sucks, I'm not like upset. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. So
Yeah.
that was different, and just his amount of input was so massive compared to the last few projects that it was just cool. It was cool.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of nice having that personal touch to it as well, to be able to be that honest with someone. It's yeah. I can imagine, like, Mike or yourself just putting your heart and soul into a take, and then him just being like, "Can you please definitely do that again?" Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was a
It's
waste.
like acting a little bit, I guess,
Yeah,
where, every performance has to be the best, but then many of them won't be. So
yeah.
you're giving it your all, yeah, and then it's just like, nah, that wasn't it. So,
Um, yeah, and his, as you said, like, his attention to detail is incredible. I remember listening through, even just through Color Decay, but I've only listened to it a couple of times, so I haven't, like, completely, jumped into it. But with the Z2 EP, I remember hearing certain things, like, there would be little, like, electrical ticks going over the kick drums just to add a bit more emphasis in certain parts, and I'd just be like, "That's so simple, but it's so effective for that one moment there." So, yeah, I mean,
well, I mean, that's such a huge part of the sound is his songwriting style. He has been basically, since we did the Space EP, he's been working extensively with a lot of producers on programming, and he'll just do like huge beds of programming for bands. They'll hire him to do that. So he's worked on like a One OK Rock record. He's worked on a bunch of Papa Roach records. He's worked on the Last Day to Remember record, their new single, just
mm,
all kinds of these other bands, and then he'll bring that same, energy that he's experiencing there into our stuff now. And yeah, I mean, you're so right. Like it could be just a little drum part or something like that, but it's so energetic, it just spices it up.
yeah, it does. It spices it way up. And when did the writing for this record actually begin? Like, was it during lockdown you're kind of like, all right, it's time, or did you have songs or ideas that were kind of maybe left over from previous works, or like ideas on your phone, like you record something, you like like,
Definitely a little bit of all that. I think we wanted to do a zombie sequel even back before we did the act, and then
hmm,
it just those guys had written Kyle and John had written a couple songs, and it just wasn't sticking and just didn't really like kind of surpass the old one, so it didn't really make sense. So we went 180 and did everything that we did on the act, and so then. I think after Z2, there was just so much creative energy. He just started pumping stuff out. And then sometimes he'll write stuff for other people as well. Or, if something doesn't make sense for us, he'll pass it off to another client. So he would kind of send stuff and be like, do we want to use this? And sometimes it's like, yes, oh my God. And then sometimes it's like, someone else can have that. So it was just a lot of that back and forth. And we had just gotten used to that in the pandemic of not having to be together. But then we did do multiple sessions, like where we rented a couple Airbnbs in different areas and basically made the whole record in those rentals.
oh, okay, well that's helpful. So it's you're actually working together as a like physically together to make that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, some things like, yeah, I have a studio in my house, but I don't want to like be working. It's not the same, you need the energy. You need to be able
Sure.
to sit like behind the computer and he goes, okay, what do you think about this? And you're like, I don't love that part or something, or
Yeah.
maybe we change that to a piano. Just those little things where it's like, if he does like, 80% and gets it there, let's take it across the finish line together, sort of thing
Yeah.
like that. So.
And did you find it frustrating to be sending sound bites across to each other via, I don't know whether it's via Telegram or I don't know, Dropbox or Google Drive? Like the bands that I've spoken to about this, they've kind of said that their songwriting went from being kind of like, okay, this sequence sounds pretty cool. What do you think goes like well after this? Oh, let's put a breakdown. They all play it and they go, oh, cool, next. But then when they moved into the like, I guess you call it like independent bite-sized songwriting,
Hmm.
they were like they were considerably more surgical with everything. So like, oh,
Mm.
maybe that guitar, like that chord progression doesn't sound as good when it's like next to this this like surf style drum, like yeah, drum pattern and stuff. So did you end up finding so did you find that you ended up becoming a lot more surgical with your writing through this time, or was it a different experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I could definitely see that happening. John is just such a gifted guy that he has almost a perfect marriage between that surgical precision, but then he almost kind of sits back and like takes his eyes off the screen and is just trying to have the emotional reaction to something. And so everything that we do, we're doing, even if it's a vocal part, drum, whatever it is, he's going to close his eyes and just sit there and process and say, is that eliciting the right emotional response? So I
Mm.
think just because that was still happening and just being able to have such frank conversations and just be like, I don't like the second verse. Let's change that. It just, it felt more like we were still in the same space, but not that headache of like trying to treat your drummer like a human drum machine or something. It's like, can you play that again? He's like, my body hurts. I can't
It's like
do
all I
it.
heard was
So,
weakness.
yeah.
And look, now I've loved pretty much everything that you guys have done. But Color Decay is really it's something else. It is really just a next step up for you guys as a band, and that is a pretty that's pretty cool. Like to you guys been going since what 2005 is when you formed.
Yeah.
2006 is
Yeah.
when Dear Love a Beautiful Discord came out, but 2022 you're still making some incredible stuff that's deeply engaging, and it's still unique, and that's amazing. I mean, what was the collective feeling that you guys had as you finished recording and producing this record?
Thank you. It is mind blowing that it's been that long,
Sorry,
and even crazier
sorry, I don't
that
mean to make you feel like
no, yeah, I'm 34. I'm an old man, but yeah, you know, I guess even going into it, when we went into the act, that was a very intentional conversation of saying, we're going to make the record that we want to make, no matter what. Like, no compromises. We're literally going to leave being totally happy with it. and we don't care what people think. And if it doesn't work out, we'll just break up. We've had a great run. It's been awesome. Let's just leave all our cards on the table and do it. And then it was really successful. And like we had some songs, especially like Chemical, that just went
Mm.
off and then kind of led into Z2 and things like that. So I think we knew at that point we could kind of, at least for ourselves, do whatever we wanted to. And even if people didn't like it, well, we would still be satisfied. But it definitely felt magical in a way that when we made Dear Love and held it the first time, and when we made Plagues and with Roots Above and Zombie and Dead Throne, we just had something that was so just felt precious, and like I just, didn't want to break it. And the last few releases, I don't want to say they didn't feel that way, but they felt more like projects, and like we were working towards some goal and we met the goal. We had,
Mm.
wanted to do 12 songs, and we have 12 songs and a lot of them are good. This one felt like this matters. Like this is a monumental moment in our career. So that was pretty
Mm.
cool. And just playing like Sacrifice and Watchtower and stuff like that live, and having those be some of the craziest songs of our set. Like we've put out a lot of albums, and many times the new ones are not people's favorite song in the set. They're like, boo, play some old stuff. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Sacrifice is next level. I don't want to say much about the new album and the song specifically because I want people to like to experience it themselves without any real,
Sure.
influence. But man, like, yeah, good,
Thank
good,
you.
good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very
Um,
pumped on it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan
yeah,
of it.
absolutely, me too. Um, you guys have been writing, like as we've just said, like you've been writing a ton of music over this time. Even during the LPs, you're releasing EPs all the time. How do you balance all of this producing and writing with touring, but then also making sure that you guys are living your own individual lives? It
Mm,
sounds like a really
I
hard
don't, I
balance
don't,
to
I
to
don't know
have.
if you can do that. Yeah, you can ask my girlfriend. She's like, yeah, he's not. But yeah, I mean, so we have a really good manager. Actually, Paul from the band Silverstein manages us, and he's a killer manager. And him and I just have a really good like project management system. Basically, just it's kind of what I was talking about earlier with that surfboard philosophy, where it's like never treat anything as precious and unchangeable. Like if you wanted to put this song out that month, a million things are going to happen. They're going to change your mind before that happens. So you might want to change the song that comes out there. Maybe the sequence of the album is not the same. Maybe even the date that the album comes out is not the same. Like anything could happen like that. Music video, you don't love how it's coming together, reshoot something. So it's basically just having really good organization and drive to get the stuff done that you can control. So when things are out of your control, you kind of do it. And then just having a good team to where I can just say, like on tour, like, I will be at the stage. I need you to take care of everything else because, I'm working on some other stuff. So,
So it's a lot of communication, but there's also a lot of trust, in the people that you're
yes.
that you're working closely with.
Yeah, and our label is amazing. Like Solid State Records is an incredible label. I'm not just saying that. We literally just re-signed a deal with them because I love our A&R Adam over there so much. They're such a great team, so that helps
Amazing.
too.
And so with that, being able to trust people and I guess, be able to rely on them when you need to take care of other things. I mean, that obviously must take a fair bit of it's trust building, right? So, I mean, what does it take, as you're moving forward over time as a band, especially, for the span that you guys have had? Like, what does it take to be as close of a unit as that? I mean, you're cohesively coming up with some deeply engaging and refreshing material. Like, is it have you found that it's really natural, or is it like you really have to put in the work to make sure that you're all really appreciating each other as individuals and as, I guess, colleagues?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. Like Mike and myself, for example, we have never really fought that I can remember, and we are literally the only original guys in the band, and we're also
Mm.
the two singers of the band. So that speaks a lot to just our chemistry and our dynamic. Like
Yeah.
we just I mean, there was a point in time when we both lived in Chicago. We were hanging out pretty much every week, and then we go on tour and live together, and then we come home and hang out at the bar every week, and then go on tour. So we just have that vibe to where we can hang whenever, and kind of trust each other to make decisions. And then John also, he's been in the band a long time, like over 10 years now.
Mm.
So it feels like uh, for most of the important chapters in the last decade, he's been a part of that too. And then the other guys just are, they totally get it and they have the same vision, and we have the same goal, and you know, I guess it just works.
It just works.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man. And look, I've got one more question for you, then I'll let you go. What
sure.
what do you want people to understand about the band and where it's at now as they go through this album?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we really feel a newfound sense of focus. We feel confident in what we're doing in the studio. We feel really confident in being able to bring it into a live environment. And we have so many friends. Like it, I can't emphasize the community enough. Like being on tour, we just were on a tour with Beartooth and Silverstein and Era. We're on tour with We Came as Romans and Dayseeker last fall. Like there are so many good, Data Remember guys I talk to very frequently. There's such a architects, everybody. There's such a great community. North Lane, all these people
Yeah.
who I know that we're talking in the DMs and over text and stuff all the time. It just feels like there's a really strong community of bands helping each other out. So I guess, yeah, as far as where the band's at, it feels like 2008 again. It feels like the scene is back like it's never been back before. And
Yeah.
I have like 10 more albums worth of ideas that we want to crank out. So
That's that's actually like I do agree. It feels like the scene's back. I mean, metalcore is making a massive comeback, and especially like the early slash mid 2000s metalcore, like See You Space Cowboy, that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
That's coming back big time, and I'm all for it. Um, with that, actually, sorry, bonus question. Now that we're here, um,
sure.
is there an album or a band right now that you're stuck, like you're stuck on repeating?
I love Wage War. I love like
Mm,
Manic, their last album.
it's
Um,
fantastic.
it's so good. I like that new Day to Remember song that just came out.
Miracle.
I like, I just like everything all my friends are putting out right now. I like the new Bring Me the Horizon song a lot.
Yeah,
Strangers, I thought was cool. I'm really excited to see what those guys do. I thought their last EP was super cool, and then
yeah.
you never know what they're gonna do. So.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? Like they still have that metalcore ability, but they can put out like something that's akin to the 1975 if they want to. It's really, it's like,
Dude, Ollie has that personality. He's always had it since I've known those guys since we were kids, and you would go to a bar and like everyone would just fixate on him the whole time.
yeah,
Everyone's talking shit on him until he walks in the room. They're like, there he is. So it's like those guys can't miss in my eyes. Yeah.
yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it as well. Look, dude, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you and learning more about color decay, and of course, like everything all the way back to 2006. Um,
Sure.
So Color Decay comes out September 16 via Solid State Records, and you're going on tour starting on the 4th of August across the US. So if you're watching this, book a ticket. Don't be an idiot. If you want to see Zombie live in its entirety, you got to go. Um,
And we're
yeah,
working, I'm actively working on coming to Australia in 23. I'm trying to get there really bad. So we'll
oh,
see what
dude,
happens.
I'll be there. Don't you worry, I'll be there.
Awesome. Well, thank
Correct.
you for having me on, man. I appreciate it so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.